I walked into one of the most happening events in Silicon Valley this week, met a billionaire founder, took a picture, posted it on LinkedIn, and then I deleted it. Not from a place of being ashamed, but instead I finally understood what level I'm playing at, because the version of me that I am today is a version that does not have any requirement to prove anything to anyone. I finally stopped performing success and started being that version of me. Hi, my name is Ajita and welcome to my YouTube channel. With over 20 years of corporate executive experience, I am now the spiritual advisor for tech CEOs and founders, upgrading their internal operating system with consciousness and energy-based frameworks that allows for them to lead at visionary scale. What I'm sharing with you in this video is my live business building experience of taking my business to $4.4 million in 12 months or less. I am not building this business from grind and hustle. Instead, I'm using 4 key principles, what I call the 4 I's: infinite intelligence, identity, intuition, and inspired action. This is my live case study of using my own EPIC leadership operating system framework, where in EPIC, E stands for emotional operating system, P for physical operating system, I for intellectual operating system, and C for consciousness operating system. Week by week, you will see invisible shifts creating visible results. We are now on week 12. Let's see what has shifted. The first event that I want to share with all of you is waking up on Wednesday morning with absolute terror in my system. I don't know what happened, but when I woke up, I felt this huge fear of completely everything falling apart, that I didn't have a clue of what I was doing. And I sensed a lot of fear in my body, and there was a lot of judgment with respect to what had or had not happened in the day before, which is essentially the Startup Grind conference that I spoke about in the last week's video. So I was judging myself. I started comparing myself that if this so-and-so person would have attended that same conference, they would have handled things differently. They would have walked away with God knows how many connections and leads. And so there was a lot of self-judgment and comparison that brought an immense amount of terror into my system. So obviously, emotionally, I was extremely in a state of fear. Physically, I actually broke down with tears, and I was actually processing the overwhelm of such fear through tears in the process. And intellectually, I will say there was a lot of chatter. What if nothing works out? Because I'm building this business using very unique principles that too publicly. So there was a lot of question, what would happen if all of this doesn't work out and I make a fool of myself? And also there was intellectually a strong sense of comparing my abilities, connections, and what I am and unable to do with other people that I know of and are highly successful. Consciousness level, I knew that I was playing from the old version of me. She had crept in somehow and trying to get back her presence into my awareness. That was very key for me to recognize. The way I shifted it was becoming aware. The minute I was in the state of freaking out as to everything is going to fall apart, I have no idea what I'm doing, and self-judgment, I knew that there was some work that needed to be done. So obviously tears was a part of it to just clear the stress that I had built up, but also meditating and visualizing the successful version of me and being connected to the infinite intelligence field and remembering that this is actually all an illusion, aka virtual reality, and everybody's got to exit it at some point. So often what happens when I go through these cycles is coming to awareness that this is temporary, this life itself is temporary, remembering that as part of the illusionary experience and remembering the truth of who I really am, the everlasting existing connection that I feel with source and infinite intelligence really calms my nervous system. And I say, okay, this is the truth, because what does not feel good is not the truth. What feels good is the truth. So I tapped into that knowing, into that energy, and I immediately felt the shift. So the minute I remembered the truth of who I am, which is not this limited fear-based version, but the version of me that absolutely is abundant and expansive and limitless, I was able to ground myself back to the current identity of mine, which is the expansive, happy, joyful, successful version of me. This is basically the shift that I had. And as a result of that, the outer operating system was I walked into the conference on Wednesday, which is actually the conference organized by the Indus Entrepreneurs, an organization called TiE. They have a conference called TiECon that I attended on Wednesday and on Friday. And the Wednesday event, I walked in as this absolutely beautiful, successful, embodied version of me. And so before I move to discussing what happened at that event, I will leave you For this particular event, I want to leave you with a key takeaway. Fear often is mistaken as a sign of failing. But if you noticed in my example that I gave you, the fear that I experienced actually was not present there for me to feel like I was a failure, but it was reminding me where I was still having the door open to the older version of me to walk in and maybe impact me in some way or the other. What I would leave you with is that whenever you experience fear, please know that it is there for you to see through it and to move through it instead of shrinking back to the safety that you're familiar with. And this particular aspect requires a good amount of nervous system regulation, which is what I did through the process of tears and through the process of meditation. So event 2, that was on Wednesday morning, where I walked into the TiECon conference in Silicon Valley. And what really happened there was I had signed up to be attending a artificial intelligence workshop, and because that was the only event they had happening at around the time that I was going to join them, which was around 1:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. So what I really experienced was powerful. As I was sitting inside that room, my intuition started becoming very, very loud. My intuition is like, no, this is not the room that you belong in. You have to be getting out and talking to people. So I resisted it a bit, but then it became too loud for me to ignore, and I decided to just get out of that room, walk down to where the lobby was, where they were doing registrations, and I happened to see a few people there. I made eye contact with one of the persons who actually looked familiar to me. So I said, looks like I know you from somewhere. That was it. That was the one conversation, one entry, very naturally, because exactly what I felt was that person did feel familiar to me. That was the only statement I made. And then I connected with that person. And from there on, he introduced me to a whole bunch of other people. And I would have met like 25 people. And it's maybe about an hour or so I was there, 25 people. All of them long-term association with TiECon as an organization. And the beauty is the person who I first struck the conversation with then invited me to an event they were having with another IT organization who was gathering at a local restaurant. And he said, given what you're doing, you should probably come attend this event. I said, sure. All the way, I think up to 5:30, 6 o'clock. From 1:30 to 6 o'clock, I was at that event connecting with so many different people. Not superficially though. Every connection that I made, I was discussing, I was sharing what I do, but most importantly, understanding what they did. And it was not like, okay, hi, I met you, here is my LinkedIn, let's connect. That's not how it was. Every conversation, I spent good amount of time getting to know them, getting to know their history with the organization, getting to know what they do, sharing what I do, all from an energy of absolute presence. I was fully present, fully embodied, not in any desire to look at who might be my client. I just did not have that intention at all. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversations with each person. So I said, okay, this is literally synchronicities unfolding. I'm just going to follow it. And I walked into that event. And again, there I met all these different people, and I struck a very deep and powerful conversation with one of the CEOs there. We would have spent about 10 minutes talking to one another. And at the end of it, he's like, I want to know how to work with you. That was his statement. And that was really, really powerful for me, because in the conversation, we realized that he was looking to build his business up to $100 million. And I could see how it is possible. And all I did was just share that vision with him. And that's how the conversation unfolded. And of course, he did ask about my journey, and I shared my story very, very quickly and briefly. And he turned around to the person next to me and said, have you met her? She's like a dynamite. When you fully accept and embody who you truly are, everybody else perceives you the same way, if not in a much higher level of perception. And for me, this entire day on Wednesday in TiECon was actually a testament to my having said yes to the full grand version of me without apology, without dimming my light. I'll also continue to the next day, because this series of 2 days was high vibrational for me. I was in complete embodiment of my full self. What happened at the end of that conversation is he was also going to be attending TiECon on Friday, which I was also going to. And so we said, we'll connect back at the event. And then when I left that event, I went back home to my cousin's place where I'm staying right now. And the following day, evening, I had an event in San Francisco, which is about an hour's drive from where I am right now. The old version of me would have said, okay, since the event is in the evening, let me go to Thursday again to TiECon, because TiECon was a 3-day event, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I was going to attend Wednesday, half a day, and then I was going to skip Thursday and then go back on Friday. But the old version of me would have said, no, you paid the money, go and maximize your investment, and by going in the morning on Thursday. But I was so clear, my intuition was so clear, no, you need to rest. So all I did was drove to San Francisco. I went and rested and got ready after that. I wore a new royal blue suit that I bought for myself. I was in complete embodiment. The energy was complete embodiment of success, of the vision, of the version of me that I have envisioned for myself. And that evening was another magical evening. I walked into the space. Right from the time I walked in, people were just coming to me. I didn't have to go and introduce myself to anybody. Probably the only exception were 2 people that I went on my own to introduce myself and connect with them. Everybody else was coming to me and they were asking, I love your outfit. I love your, this has become my brand statement, this earring. Almost every event I wore it and everybody remembered me because of this. There's a person who attended the Tuesday event at the same event, Startup Grind, that I went to. He happened to be in the same event on Thursday evening. And he actually walked up to me and said, I know I met you on Startup Grind because I remember you had something similar in your ear. It's a different design. That's how much people have started recognizing me and this, the brand that I carry, which is an absolute win for me. This Thursday evening event that I went to, the biggest win for me was how I showed up. There was actually a person who walked up to me. He actually waited for 15 minutes to talk to me as I was engaging in a conversation with someone else and couldn't get breakthrough. So he went away and came back again later when I was standing alone and said, I really have to talk to you. Who are you? Like, really, who are you? Because everybody seems to want to talk to you. Everybody seems to want to know you. Like, I really am curious. Who are you? What do you do? This to me is the testament of the energy and the embodiment of my presence that I'm celebrating. And the highlight of that evening is I made a connection with a venture capitalist to see and explore possibilities of supporting their portfolio of founders. And I also had a conversation with a billionaire who's a founder. When I mentioned specifically what I do, including the word healing and not just coaching, I elaborated on it, he actually widened his eyes. I noticed that more than once, that there was much more openness when I talked about consciousness, energy, and spirituality in my work as against a traditional strategic advisor positioning. The reason I'm calling all this out is because this trip and these 2 events have made me realize that I am underselling or under-positioning my gift of what I bring to these founders and this tech audience. Long story short, this was a powerful transformational 2 days for me because emotionally, physically, intellectually, and consciousness-wise, I was completely embodying my iconic self, my absolute best, grandest version of myself, and showed up in that energy at both these events. No apologies, absolutely owning my greatness to the point people were so intrigued and so keen on connecting with me. This is what I have been working towards all this while. And to me, the external reality in terms of results, it's showing up. That's how I feel, because my physical embodiment and my presence is speaking far louder than I could have ever attempted with my logical, analytical, and strategic planning mind. So the key outer action is I had a key meeting set up as a result of this particular 2-day experience. And I had one promising connection coming from to the venture capitalist firm. So what is the key takeaway from this event for all of you that are listening from my experience? Your energy speaks far louder than your word or your pitch deck ever will. So no matter how much you're practicing your pitch, your confidence, and all of that, your energetic presence is the loudest indicator of who you are and your marketing. If you don't invest in that, then you're missing out on 99% of your success metric if you're only going to be chasing the external obvious ones. So invest in shifting who you are, your identity, and your energetic presence, because the payoff for that is lifelong. The third event I want to share with all of you this week is the Friday event at TiECon. I was really excited about this because they actually had a evening gala that they had planned, including a professional band, Bollywood band performing, which you all know is my jam. I am a singer, I'm a performer, I'm an artist myself, and I love to listen to other people perform. I love supporting and cheering them on. So I was really, really looking forward to it. And the highlight before that is that day I also had my qualifying assessment conversation with one of the CEOs that I connected with on Wednesday. And the beauty about this conversation is it taught me how important it is to qualify people, not from a financial or from a credential standpoint, but for their readiness to do this type of work to achieve external results. I loved that conversation because one, it was extremely impromptu and unplanned. I didn't have a script. I was sitting face to face with a person. I was present for this person as a human first, and then as a business person next, right? And the conversation was very organic. I'm celebrating two things about this. One, while we were sitting and talking, of course, it's in a conference. There was a particular lounge space we were sitting and talking. And in that kind of a space, it's likely for someone else who's looking to talk to the person I'm talking to line up to, so they can be the next person to, interact with them once I'm done with my conversation. It's a very natural thing that happens in any event. But this was in a private space somewhat, and it was on a table where just the two of us were sitting and talking. And I had somebody else come and sit in that same table with no other purpose but to listen to us and maybe have a conversation with the person I was talking to once I was done. The old version of me would not have bothered or would have had second thoughts about asking that person to leave, because we were having actually a private conversation. I was trying to understand what was going on in this person's business and how I can be of support. This version of me didn't bat an eyelid. The current version of me, I just looked at this person and said, is it okay if you leave us some privacy, because we're having a private conversation here? That's all I said. Very polite, very direct. And the person got up and left. That is a clear evidence of me being the new version of me. The old version of me would have been like, no, I thought 100 times about the other person, not about what was going on and how important it is for my client or my prospect who I'm sitting with to feel that, comfort. So that I'm celebrating. Second thing, the entire conversation was so organic, and it became clear to me that this individual I was talking to sees the need or the value of the work that I do, but may not be ready right now. So I absolutely celebrated that awareness. I did quote what it takes to work with me, and I didn't have second thoughts about it at all. And I shared it, and I said, whenever you feel called to and you're ready, you know where to find me. That was my ending statement. We walked out. I went to get ready for the gala, and because you know me, I'm not going to show up in suit for a gala. I'm someone who loves to dress up, so I was dressed up for the gala. I walked back in, and this person that I was talking to, my prospect, was taking me around, introducing me to so many people. So many people. Like, I have lost count of how many people I've met and talked to in that evening, and not talked to in a very superficial way. I quote a few of the conversations which are very me-oriented, so I'm very particular about the discretion here as well, right? One of them that I was talking to in that circle told me, do you know what your name means? It means someone who cannot be won by others. And I didn't bat an eyelid. I said, yes, of course I know. I think he mentioned your parents have kept a name that is very powerful. And I said, I'm living up to it. Do you know why? Because I never compete with anybody else. Every day I aspire to be a better version of myself than the previous day. It just came out of me impromptu like that. Someone else was listening to that very statement, and he looks at me and he says, that is a very clear, confident, and a profound answer. A lot of work must have gone into you before you could have said that kind of a statement or response back. And I looked at him and said, yes, 11 years. And simply smiling. And that led to a whole another conversation with that individual. This is how organically I was just connecting with these people, fully present, very, very quickly. Conversations were going so deep because, me being me, you cannot talk to me about weather and politics or religion. It just isn't going to happen. When you talk to me, I go deep into your psyche. I go right into your operating system. I make observations that make you pause and say, wow, I never thought of it that way. That's my zone of genius. And every person who talked to me felt that in me. Every person, without an exception. Why? Because I decided to show up as that full embodied version of me that is unapologetically deep, wise, artsy, ballsy, call it whatever, right? Bold. I don't mince my words anymore. There's no need to, because the world needs people like me who can speak their mind but with compassionate candor and kindness. That's what I exhibited that evening. Well, the evening is not over yet. Here's the highlight. On Friday evening, the gala started, the band was performing. You know me, or if you don't know me, I cannot stop singing and moving my body when music unfolds, and especially for Bollywood, because that's my jam. And so there I was, absolutely singing along, and people were lining up to have dinner. Me, I was stepping back from the table, waiting to see when the line would die down a little bit, and I was singing out loud. The people that were right by the table where I was standing, instead of looking there at the stage, they looked to me. They're like, oh my God, what are you doing here? You should be on stage. And then comes a whole slew of, oh, I need to connect with you. You are such an amazing singer. And there you go. Suddenly my avatar as a singer gets online. On Wednesday, when I attended TiECon the first day, somebody walked by, recognizes me, and says, wait a second, I know you. I know you from social media. You are a singer. You sing so well. What are you doing in this conference? And that person happens to be orchestrating the whole audio video aspect of the entire event. And fast forward, thanks to him, on the evening of Friday, I ended up being in front of the audience as a last act, singing 2 small snippets of songs. And before that, I absolutely danced my heart out for all the songs that was played by the band as well as by the DJ. And there were so many people that came to me and wanted to know who I was and whether I was a professional dancer, whether I was a professional artist, performing artist, and wanted to connect with me because of that reason. So here I am in a technical conference filled with founders and CEOs who are not only connecting with me because of simply my presence. Towards the evening, when I unleashed my whole artist in me with dancing and singing, I had another set of people that wanted to connect with me for that very reason. That's a lot of what unfolded on just one day, Friday. Emotionally, I was in a complete state of joy. I was singing, I was happy, I was smiling. There was no presence of any melancholy, fear, or grief. Physically, I was sparkling in my outfits. I had a beautiful royal blue outfit that I wore for the Friday event as well, and sparkly gala outfit, and I was completely in my queen energy. Intellectually, I realized that my pitch is, besides the presence, the pitch needs to also be focused on high value in terms of not looking at the shortcomings or what's not working, but more about how can I elevate their aspiration to be more visionary to land their goals, which is a very different way of appealing to an audience versus what I have used in the past, especially with the mainstream offering. And last but not the least, I absolutely was celebrating my arrival as the new grandest version of me. The identity shift had completed by that evening, the Friday. And it so happens that happened to be a full moon in Scorpio, and I'm a Scorpio rising in Western astrology. And for those of you astrology buffs, that was my homecoming. That was my graduation night, where I fully finally said yes to all aspects of me: the singer, the dancer, the healer, the advisor, the spiritual version of me. All of it came in together and said, this is who you are, own it. So what's your takeaway? Your wholeness is your competitive advantage. So if there is any part of you that you're dismissing, saying that doesn't tie with my avatar or the impression that I'm trying to make, whether it be the creative artist in you or the speaker in you, the poet in you, I don't know, whatever that it is for you. For me, the dancer, the singer, the spiritual advisor, the consciousness director or architect, the healer, all of it is me. And I have stopped compartmentalizing these aspects of me. So the question I leave you with is this: what parts of you are you not wholly owning for yourself? That is asking for you to own it so you can show up with wholeness as your competitive advantage. The next event I want to share with all of you is the event on Saturday morning. Of course, this was such a high on Friday for me. I rested. I was, of course, deeply emotional as well, but I rested and I woke up in the morning and I spoke to both my sons, appraising them of what happened until then. And Both my sons are debating. We should take a bet. Is mom going to land her first record label deal, or is she going to land a business deal in Bay Area? I was laughing because it was such a tender moment to see my kids celebrate my experience and my arrival of this new version of me. And of course, emotionally, it was a tender celebration, but there was a deep knowing that this is who I was always meant to be until I stopped compartmentalizing myself. And physically, I will say one realization that landed for me really, really deeply is the way I got treated and perceived on both Thursday and Friday through the gala made me realize that I'm not meant for everybody, and I'm meant for very select few founders at the ultra high level that I'm meant to work with. And I'm not saying this from an egotistic standpoint. It is what feels right for me in my alignment and what I'm offering to this world. And the realization came when this was the first time I had somebody escort me all the way from the gala to my car. And that made me realize that all this time I drove on my own. I used to go to a place on my own, walk back on my own, drive back on my own. I have been pretty independent. Independence is not a lesson I'm here to learn. Instead, what I was shown that evening was caliber of a woman who is so highly successful, not monetarily though, not just monetarily, who's so highly successful, whose aura is so palpably, profoundly loving that it requires a certain level of protection. When that awareness landed, I knew exactly who I wanted to serve, how I wanted to be approached by this world, and how I want to hold space for my divinity, for my goddess energy, and how precious this journey has been to get this far. And of course, I'm sharing all this with absolute humility and compassion for my own self for having navigated this far. But it equally rings true for me that this is the billionaire version of me. The version of me that says yes to being protected by people around me from a place of reverence and respect, and not from a place of, psychophancy. There's a difference there. I think intellectually, because of this physical awareness that landed, I knew that I belonged in a different league, and I'm meant to be serving a different league of founders and entrepreneurs. And last but not the least, the consciousness level clearly anchored very deeply. And the way I knew this anchored very deeply was because I saw in my meditation on Saturday morning, I knew the title of my second book. Yeah, I haven't even finished writing my first book. It is still in the process of being written, but the second book has already landed, and I knew exactly how it's going to be forming into a book. I'll tell you the title today of that second book. It is Intuition as Your Superpower in the Age of AI. And the way that book was shown to me is I'm actually sharing my journey of building this business up to $4.4 million using the 4I principle. I'm actually sharing that on stage with a whole bunch of people as to how I built it. And that is what becomes the book that I'm writing. In fact, this YouTube journey that you all are listening to is going to be the input to that particular book. That's what I was shown. And I said, yes, I've already said yes to book number 2. This is how my life rolls. I get shown and I'm like, yeah, sign me up, I'm doing this. But I'm celebrating the identity of this version of me that is so in tune with the infinite intelligence that there is no resistance. What really shifted for me is the external confirmation. I actually had somebody message me after the Friday evening event telling me, you have absolutely beautiful auric presence. Aura, they used the word, you have a beautiful aura. That's what they used as the word. So I believe that. I completely received that as well, because that is what I've been working all this long to arrive at. If anything, the last 3 days of being present here in the Valley and being at these events and the way people saw me and me receiving the way they saw me is a testament version of me that is fully embodied, is accepting of all her greatness, into the point where the field around her, the energy around me is fully palpably that for everybody who reaches it, who touches it. And I'm celebrating this because it took me a long while to get here, and I'm happy to be sharing this with all of you at this moment. So the outer action from the Friday event was mainly reflecting on how many connections, not just superficial but high-level connections. I think I've had about 61 connections that I have made, of which at least 50 of them are deep conversations-based connections that have happened over the last 3 to 4 days in this presence here. And there is a very clear knowing that 4 high-level clients are going to come through from this particular set of 50 plus, minimally. That's the knowing, not even the expectation, that's the knowing. So what's your takeaway from my experience from these events? You work so hard for something to arrive in your external reality. So when it does, the external evidence is the universe's receipt for all the price that you have paid. So please don't take it for granted. Please don't scroll past it. Instead, pause and say yes, because this is the point at which you are acknowledging and accepting your own light shining bright in this world. When someone reflects your light back to you, please don't shrink or hide. Instead, say yes and receive it with full gratitude. That's what I did this week, and it makes such a big difference in your own psyche, in how you see yourself. Saturday was an easy day. I met one of my group mates from the mentorship program that I'm doing with Neil Donald Walsh. It was a great day. I rested. I went for a walk. I didn't do much after such a high vibe Friday. All of Saturday was pretty low-key. And Sunday, I drove all the way to San Francisco because my cousins and I were planning to go to sightseeing to Yosemite Falls. And those 2 days were amazing. I had such a fun time with my first cousins. They are my brothers. And, we haven't been in such a environment of having so much fun in a very long time. So we were all nostalgic and remembering those fun childhood moments. It was so precious and I absolutely loved it. And what happened though, on Sunday as I was driving to San Francisco, before I did, I felt this sudden urge to post about my entire experience in the valley, right? So I wrote a post about, jokingly about what my son's told, is record label first, or is a business deal first for mom. And in that, I also had a message about integrating dancer in you, the advisor in you, the singer in you, and the strategist in you, and so on. And I did say the world is craving for, leaders who are able to audaciously be themselves and be whole. But what I did though in that post is added the picture of the billionaire founder that I met, and I did allude to him and how I observed how present he was with everybody in that event. But then I also realized that the version of me I am right now, the version of me that is working with billionaires, working with founders that are highly successful and want to serve them, is a version that is very discreet and has a deep sense of discretion. So I thought for myself, if somebody were to meet me as a billionaire and post a picture on social media, what is their intention behind it? It is to show the world that you had proximity to a billionaire. But if this person who meets me as a billionaire truly had the intention of meeting me and serving me, would they be sharing with the world that they met me? Not exactly, right? It was such a huge awareness for me this morning. I posted it on Sunday. It was in both my social media platforms for about 2 to 3 days. But this morning, it landed on me that the version of me that I am right now, who aspires and wants and desires, or is already working with highly successful founders in an advisory capacity, especially as a spiritual advisor, which by the way is something that landed very deeply this morning, especially with the 4 days of conversations. It became very clear to me that I'm not a strategic advisor. I am the spiritual advisor for highly successful tech CEOs. That is who I am. And I claim it. And so it became very evident that if I'm a spiritual advisor for tech founders that are highly successful, would I go around posting pictures of all the tech founders that I'm looking to serve? Absolutely not. I would not want anybody in the world to know who I'm serving, because my clients would expect a deep level of confidentiality and discretion. So I deleted both the posts, and I'm so proud and so in awe of how clear It has become for me whether something is coming from a place of fear or ego, or something is coming from a place of clear embodiment of who I am. Because the old version of me would have made a story about, oh my God, you're deleting it because you're afraid, you're blah, 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 blah. No, 3 days it sat there. There was no fear. I knew clearly why I was doing what I was doing. But I also missed out. The entire post was perfect except for tagging the person and putting their picture in there. That's where the dissonance came up. And the dissonance came up to my awareness during morning meditation today. And I said, nope, this is not who I am. This is not how I want to be shown or be perceived. This is up to me on how I decide to show up. Is this what I want for myself? Is this what I would want if I were a client of someone else who's advising me? No. That is where the answer became very clear. This is a powerful moment because we often confuse our knowing to our ego, and this is discernment in action that I wanted to share with all of you. In closing, I came to Silicon Valley thinking I'm going to be building a business. Instead, I built a whole new version of myself that I've always aspired to, but now I'm completely embodied in that version. 61 connections, 3 qualified leads, 1 meaningful venture capitalist connection, a spontaneous performance that made me a familiar face overnight in the Valley area. This is what Epic Leadership Operating System does. It makes you so whole, so complete, so fully you authentically that you don't have to chase business, clients, and opportunities. Instead, they find you. You don't need to hustle to make $4.4 million. You simply have to become the version of you that is ready to embody and receive that as naturally true for you. This is what week 12 showed me, and I can't wait to share what week 13 has in store. Please make sure that you subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone that may resonate with this type of content, and I'll see you next week.